Yeah, there's a lot to be said as well about community and about the way in which the structures of faith help you to build up a community as well. And I think that's something that's very admirable about societies and university.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
There are a lot of communities, and it's great that there is a little community that is striving for the same things that you want to strive for, which in our case is towards a more faithful life.
Yeah. We were laughing towards the end of last year when we were kind of working out what we were going to do. We said, okay, what can we sell? Because going to Freshers Fair, we sort of mentioned earlier. We said, okay, we can't really sell social. We're not going to give the best kind of the full social experience, the full kind of breadth and width of it. So yeah, no, we can't market ourselves as a social club. Okay. Well, now how do we market ourselves? Actually, selling that faith, selling that idealistic way of living, selling that kind of better way of doing things, more well-rounded, that sense of like holiness being wholeness. So that's the kind of derivative root of it. So how do we live our lives in a wholesome sense? How do we live it in a kind of wider sense? Well, actually, an investment back in faith, and then balancing those university experiences and moderating them by using faith, I think makes a lot of sense, and it's cool. I think it's a really good thing. Do you want to do another little segue? Should we segue over?
I think saying, do you want to do a segue, is in itself a really bad form of a segue. We shall segue on, and we shall talk about the aspects of community and why it's important to invest in our communities, and why it's important to get a group of people that are striving towards the same things as you are, because it can be quite a lonely place, university, even though you have thousands of people on campus at the same time as you. University has potential. You have the potential to just lie in your bed for a whole week, as I mentioned before, and that can be a very lonely place and a lonely time. So it's very important that cathsocs and communities of faith, if you are a person who practices, it's very important to invest in those and to actually be part of the culture of that at university.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that sense of kind of working in a space where even like so one of the things we do is open up the building, the chaplaincy building, on like revision times as well. So that sense of, that's such a really, I think such an obvious sense of community that we do, and then we'll like go up for a holy hour together or something. So you can build that like sense of peace, sense of work, and then kind of also to then socialise with that group and notice the different kind of ways a group can socialise, and then again bringing that back into the rest of a university experience as well. Like what you've got a lovely balance with home and things like that. So that different experience. There's a massive proportion of students who do live at home. It is really important to kind of acknowledge that, and they have that life, but then they bring that into their university practices and things like that. So yeah, that balance of, so whereas for me it would be, I come to the Catholic, I come and spend my time here, and then I can create we are socialising on the basis of our Catholicism, our belief in a common good, a belief in Jesus, in the Eucharist and things like that as well. So there's kind of common principles of what love might be and things like that, and then you get that different sense of community, hopefully. I haven't been to every Catholic in the country. I'm sure they're great, but
they're all wonderful.
Yeah.
So if you are listening, all Catholics in the UK, you're brilliant. Yeah,
and if you're not, let us know and we'll see what we can do to help. So that sense of like, kind of, okay, I'm now starting to build a model for community, and hopefully that's a sense that we can build, like, okay, I can do this, and then in my more difficult to judge, that less kind of moderated culture, I can then moderate myself to the point where I'm then a productive member of that group, and I can kind of behave in a certain way which is going to enable someone, like the amount of times you get to 3 o'clock in the morning, half the team's crying. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they're all pouring their heart out, and you're like, okay, now I'm able to support or kind of whatever, and that actually that we're not going to the point of like complete where everyone's kind of is Ben coming? Is he? We haven't found him, we haven't seen him for half an hour. Actually, Ben's the one finding someone, taking someone home, facilitating that group in a way which then builds the teamwork towards playing the sport.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we're almost building that routine structure, as they might say. So actually, there's an idea of, okay, my community mindset is this, therefore I can take that on. Whereas not without that community mindset, it might be different. So yeah, that sense of what it does for me as well. But then also, I think there's something kind of wider about engaging with your church. And I know you were chatting about how you put your university back into your church.
Yeah, it's actually great being a university student and being attached to your home parish still, because as a university student, you are part of the demographic that the church really wants to keep coming to the church. So if you have a good idea, chances are, if you run it by your parish priest, they will more than likely support you wholeheartedly in doing what you would like to do. Last year, I had one of my lecturers come and give a talk, a reflection during Lent, about a passage of scripture about... this is where I forget the passage of scripture.
I'm sure it was really good.
It was really very good. Yeah. And I apologise, Dr. Volpe, for forgetting the subject matter of your talk. But it was great. It was about treating our brothers and sisters around the world in an equal manner, and actually how we engage during our Lenten fasting in a way which enables the wider community to see our solidarity with other people.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so it was a great event, and if you are still going to your home parish, there are ways in which you can influence the culture of that parish. If it's a parish where things don't tend to get done, or it's been kind of stuck in its ways for a while, there are ways in which you can drop little
even if you go back yourself. Even if you go back from university and you've got things you've learned at uni that you might want to put on or whatever, we can't complain about these parishes if we're not willing to do something about them.
Exactly. And the only real way to change the culture of a place is by engaging with the culture. And that's actually being a part of the community. And if you want to change the way that music's done in your parish, if you're a nice enough person and you have a chat with the people that are in charge, they're more than likely going to be willing to let you help with the direction that's going in. People tend to want to give a little bit more in terms of giving stuff away. People feel like they're very precious with things, and it can feel like a little bit of an uphill struggle. But if you actually get to know the person, you build up a little bit of a relationship with them, and they actually see you as a nice member of the community rather than just somebody that shows up for mass and complains. If you actually chat with them and you're like, oh, it would be nice if we could do something like this.
And I've also seen it work at uni or CAFSOC or whatever. So I know the format of a lecture. I know how a lecture works. People are interested in them vaguely or whatever. And actually, this is something I can contribute to probably people who would be more kind of accepting and welcoming of it than the students in the kind of lecture theatre. And that also, we work with some of the lecturers, and we sat and had coffee with some of them about how do we build a call it a program, process, whatever, something along those lines that balances off the learning we're doing. What might be a good mirror for faith? We've got like a history lecturer that we know who lectures on Catholic lecturer who deliberately lectures on the Spanish Inquisition, just to prove the point that it is the basis of English common law. So he says, okay, you can get rid of the Spanish Inquisition and you can criticize the church for it, but you also have to get rid of innocent until proven guilty. Most of the English common law are based on a reasonable system and all these kind of ideas. So actually, I think he's just, he enjoys himself. He has a good time. So that sense, and even sitting down having that conversation was incredibly informative to know that I was out there and that's a resource we can draw, and he shaped some of the things that we're doing. So and what time do you get someone who's essentially been doing it all their life? Like he's been working on that and doing that kind of thing. So I think there's that sense of, especially that university community, is quite a rare time to do that, and there are things you can contribute back. Also in terms of the community that I've built here around myself, and then also been facilitated by our chaplain and things like that, is that actually we can do lots of things that you can't necessarily just set up like that in Paris as well. That sense of like, if we want to do this social on this night, if there's nothing else going on, go for it. And that kind of sense of that we work with what we've got, and if there's a time to try out, there's a space. If the music's rubbish here for a couple of weeks, no one really complains. Yeah, they're all students, and are they going to do better? Well, probably not. And there's a sense that we can learn in a space, again, mirroring some of that learning that goes on at uni, is that we can mirror some of that learning, and that's some of that experimenting, and that's what university should be in a much like a wider sense. That we're mirroring that university experience in our faith and things that we're doing. So you can try out the music, you can try out this. Do I like it? Do I not like it? One of the things we've done here is we all went to York for a Latin mass. Just like, okay, wow, let's try that out. Like, it's great. So it's just like a time to experiment with faith, a time to push the boundaries, sit and ask questions. Yeah, why not fire some questions at your chaplain? We ran one of the things we ran, and we'll probably do another session on this. We ran this Friday nights. We called it Sex, Relationships, Wine and Cheese, and we just got
it's good 4 things.
Yeah, it was like kind of sex, drugs, rock and roll, something along those lines. So we were just doing these wine and cheese evenings where we talked theology of the body for the evening.
Sounds perfect.
Oh, mate, it was lovely.
Sounds great.
Yeah, a bit of Wensleydale.
Are wine and cheese going to be available for the duration of the Theology of the Body podcast?
Oh, maybe. Maybe people can set their own kind of simulation up where they can
get yourself some cheese when we do eventually release the Theology of the Body podcast, and some wine, and have a great time listening to Theology of the Body.
Yeah.
And I think it's what
it'll get more interesting.
I think it's what St. John Paul II would have wanted, to be honest.
Well, there is. I think it's Augustine who says that there's nothing better in. I'm definitely probably misquoted now, but there's something like, at the end of the day, there is nothing better than a nice glass of wine and a warm bath. So it might be August. It's one of them, or it might be Aquinas.
That sounds very live, laugh, love, though.
Yeah.
It sounds very like modern mum.
Yeah,
for it to be Aquinas.
It is one of those. It's something. There's nothing nicer, than a nice glass of wine and a warm bath. So yeah.
Yeah, and we had a lot of water discussion today, and baths, rapids.
Yeah.
Going with the flow.
Tides.
Kind
of working on, aren't we?
And, yeah. And it's been a really great discussion. I think I've got a lot out of chatting to you and listening to your experiences.
Definitely.
Of structure and centralization and actually like living a student life. Because obviously, like I don't live the typical student life of being at home.
I think you'd be surprised.
But it's great to hear different perspectives of where people are in their faith journey, and I think it's great that the Catholic Student Network is going to be setting up more things to enable people to have these kind of discussions. Hopefully this is just the start of a lot of people's journey
definitely.
With us. And to be honest, if I could pick a few things out, what would you say would be the main kind of points you would like people to have taken away from our hour-long discussion?
So I think that's the initial sense of it's not going to necessarily be easy. I think there's going to be that kind of time where that there's a natural drift to uni life, even if it's just kind of get rid of the nights out, which I do enjoy. Like there's no, it's very my dance moves are known, not for any good reason, but there is definitely that sense that it's not going to be an easy time of your life to live faith. That there is that sense of even just the way like those deadlines can put on that kind of losing, that sense of you've got this whole family that you don't. Kind of whole family environment that you don't acknowledge exists until you get to uni, not fully, and probably only between that first year and second year. So end of first year, start second year, you start to realise how many things you've kind of done on your own, which you didn't realise you were kind of building towards. So that sense, it's not going to be an easy time of your life, but if you want it, it's an amazing time to discover faith, and also discover it for yourself outside of a kind of childhood environment, that kind of thing, where you can start to, okay, where does this fit together? How does this fit with my learning? What societal structures am I engaging with, like universities, like working environments, like these kind of things. Even if you go into like a politics or something like even history. History's got an amazing religious,
absolutely,
kind of like depth behind it. So even if you're studying all these other things, that faith has got something to say on all of them. So it's not going to be an easy thing, but if you are willing to go for it and engage with the community, try and almost take the church with you in many senses, that there are such an amazing time to gain from that experience. I think that's cool. And
it's also a point to be made that don't be disheartened if you feel like you're the only person at your university that has that kind of faith. Because I know a few universities don't have Catholic societies, don't have regular meetings. And so if you have stumbled across this piece on the internet, like don't be disheartened. Just keep plugging away at it. Find some form of community in your local area and make the case for a small gathering of young people.
Or just message Catholic Student Network and we'll see what we can do to help. Like, I'm sure there's something close or something that we can get you involved with as we look to kind of run events and things like that. That even those students who might feel a bit more isolated,
absolutely,
we'll try and give support on. But there'll be things online and things like that. But also, get in touch, and we'd like to hear those stories and see what we can do to link people up and help and that kind of thing.
Because it's very important, and I'd say probably you pointed out that it's not going to be easy, and I'd say maybe the second thing would be that centering yourself and having that kind of foundation to your whole university career is very important. And I feel like a Catholic faith, this whole idea of having a community to center yourself with, and to have something to go back to know that Sunday is a day to center yourself around.
And the rest of the week.
To not have Sunday as just another day where you're lying in bed all day. I do feel like from our discussion that maybe the second thing would be to
definitely center
yourself around something.
And what am I building around? What's my thing that dictates the rest of my week in that way? That actually, if I start with Sunday and then feed from Sunday, like the experience of Mass, and then that feeds into like maybe a Tuesday night, even if you've got your Tuesday night is out with your society or whatever, that actually if I can do something in my week that means that Sunday is what then flows into the rest, I'm then centralised around something that I know is feeding me on a spiritual, on a physical, on that kind of, all that different level. I've got my kind of bodily community, but then I've also got my kind of spiritual kind of place of meeting as well. That's a point at which to kind of flow from there, and I think that's great. And do you want to do number 3?
You are a good person. You just cut my segue off.
Oh,
you're a good person then, and I feel like it's good to find good people.
They don't know me yet.
You'll get to know him, and you can make your own mind up on him. But I think he's a good person.
Oh, cheers, mate.
You went very Brummy there.
Yeah, I try and avoid it. I've been told to enunciate my words better for them to pick up. So rather than mumble into each other.
Find this good community. Find people that you can have a laugh with.
Yeah.
Find people that you know aren't gonna push you into drifting away. Find that community where you are gonna center yourself around the Eucharist, around prayer.